Hello to Pioneer viewers, how are you? I hope you're healthy and well. Today we will share with you a new information we have accessed about the Russia-Ukraine war. Since the beginning of the war, the Ukrainian armed forces have made many moves that will enter the history of the world warfare. In particular, the achievements of the Ukrainian armed forces with the superiority in unmanned aerial vehicle have gone down in the world history. Russian sources have now begun to recognize this fact. Recently, Russian sources shared a new report on the new strategy of the Ukrainian armed forces. Russian sources are experiencing great uneasiness in the face of the strategies implemented by the Ukrainian armed forces. This report is also an indicator of this. It is often stated that the Ukrainian armed forces are losing on the Donetsk front line. There are also areas captured by the Russian troops. We also mentioned this in our map reports. However, Russian troops are suffering heavy losses due to the strategies of the Ukrainian armed forces. So what is the Ukrainian strategy that causes the Russian army to suffer losses? Let's take a look at the developments together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to bring you the developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to express your opinions about our content in the comments. Let's start, if you are ready, the Pioneer reports. As we mentioned, the Russian armed forces are making some limited gains on the Donetsk front line. However, these gains caused quite large losses. In the past days, a very striking fact related to this issue has emerged. Russian sources shared the new strategy of the Ukrainian armed forces with the public. The statements in the report of the Russian sources are as follows. It is of great importance to warn out fighters about the new ambush tactic of the Ukrainian armed forces using unmanned aerial vehicles. This information was sent to us by our journalist friends working on the border. In essence, with the help of the unmanned aerial vehicles, the Ukrainian armed forces plant a cluster mine hiding under the bush or a pile of rubbish. They wait for the mine to explode. Then an evacuation vehicle of our troops goes to pick up the wounded, and a new mine planted along the way explodes on the way back. Our troops often fail to recognize these mines. This is because they are struggling along the same routes they have used before, and they assume that the route is safe. The fighters are confident that the road is clear and that the artillery units of the Ukrainian armed forces will not fire them. Therefore, the threat of mines is ignored. Now only that, after the evacuation vehicles is blown up by a mine, several unmanned aerial vehicles with a drop are sent to the mine site. Usually these unmanned aerial vehicles are kamikaze unmanned aerial vehicles. These unmanned aerial vehicles are waiting for new evacuation vehicles nearby. Then these evacuation groups are destroyed. Recently, about a few dozen of our soldiers fell into the ambush set up by the Ukrainian armed forces. In total, we estimate that more than 300 of our soldiers were injured in these ambushes. However, we don't have clear data. We know that most of our soldiers are slightly wounded. Our soldiers need to be constantly warned. The troops going to evacuation must be very careful. These troops should be constantly warned about mines. Mine detector equipment must be used during the evacuations. Otherwise, we may face more casualties. As stated by Russian sources, the Ukrainian armed forces are actively using both unmanned aerial vehicles and mines with the strategy they have developed. In this case, we can say that the losses of the Russian armed forces have increased considerably. This situation needs to continue. We know that the Ukrainian armed forces are currently implementing a war of attrition strategy against the Russian army. The main goal of this strategy is to exhaust the other side and reduce its presence whenever possible. We observe that this strategy is also showing success. These losses of the Russian armed forces are tried to be hidden by the Russian official sources. However, Russian sources working in the region often share reports about the facts with the public. Russian citizens, of course, often follow these reports. We can talk about the possibility of this situation putting pressure on the Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation. Of course, what is important here is the will of the Russian citizens. If this is shown, Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, may be forced to end his attempt to invade Ukraine. The Ukrainian armed forces are waging an extensive defense war not only on the ground but also in the air. As you may recall, we have recently faced the most effective blow of the Ukrainian armed forces against the Russian Air Force for a long time. The first blow of the Ukrainian armed forces was to the Russian military airbase in Rostov. The next blow, according to reports, took place in the southern front, around Kherson. It was even announced that the Russian military shot down 2 Russian fighter jets during this attack. According to the Christmas Day update of the Ukrainian General Staff, Ukrainian air defense shot down and destroyed 1 Su-30 and 1 Su-34 fighter jet belonging to the Russian army. Some time ago, warplanes of the Russian Air Force were entering Ukrainian airspace and carrying out their attacks from there. However, recent reports show that the Russian warplanes can no longer enter Ukrainian airspace. In international sources, this situation is expressed as follows. Russia's reduced use of glittering bombs suggests that Russian forces are concerned about Ukraine's air defense capabilities following recent losses. Ukrainian sources also publicize reports confirming this situation. According to Ukrainian military observer Konstantin Mashevets, the use of manned aviation by the Russian Air Force in the Crimean Peninsula and the northwestern Black Sea region has been limited. Mashevets is not only one of the comment on this issue. Recently, Lieutenant Colonel Vladimir Fitiyev, the spokesman for the Ukrainian ground forces, also made statements. Fitiyev's statements include the following statements. The enemy air force has reduced the use of manned aviation in the Kupiansk and Bakhmut regions of eastern Ukraine. They are trying to carry out more attacks with unmanned aerial vehicles. There is one more statement. This statement is also from Ihnant, a spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force. Ihnant also made the following statements about the situation in question. They are arrogant. They tried to hit our troops with the guided bombs deeper into the defensive positions. But when you want to attack and you're itching to attack, you have to fly closer. They took a risk, they failed. What do you think? Do you think the new strategies of the Ukrainian armed forces will work? Do you think the Russian armed forces will be able to contract these strategies? What do you think about the recent operations of the Ukrainian Air Force against the Russian Air Force? Do you think the Ukrainian army will continue its operations against the Russian Air Force? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.